on now for the adventures of the White Privilege Boy. All right there now, Timmy. I know you're a teenager, but if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. You can't park your vehicle faced into oncoming traffic. Come on, let's move.
Well, gee, officer, I'm sure sorry. Can I just go back to my car?
No, I want you to follow my instructions. Either get down on the ground or follow me away from the vehicle.
But, officer, can't I just get my PCP?
No, well, usually I'd say no, but you can make it quick. Come on, get on out of here, you white rascal.
Oh, boy, I'm in a freebase.
Oh, those boys. What pickle will they find themselves in next? Stay tuned for next week's installment of Adventures of the White Privilege Boys.
Louder with Crowder is brought to you in part by .com. Head over to the shop, support the fight, and buy some cool threads. It's the Tits Pajamas. .com. That was an aggressive sip, and my legs were dangling like the Oscar Mayer Wiener Kid because my desk is a little bit higher today.
Is it?
Yeah.
Or me anywhere.
That's quite true. But I tell you what, Dave is stuck on Band-Aid brands.
Ah.
Is it because bands don't stick on me? I never understood the song. It doesn't make any sense. You're
Bands
stuck
don't
on the
stick
brand.
on me.
Oh, you're stuck on the brand
No,
because
it's
it doesn't.
Because the
It's
brands
non-stick.
don't stick.
Yeah, AIDS.
Right.
Yeah.
Something with bands.
Something
that's
with
it.
bands. I don't know.
who knows?
Queen
AIDS
I
stays
don't know.
with
I'm just
you.
a poor boy. Nobody loves me. Glad to be with you. We are not on the YouTube tranny.
Boo.
So we're on Rumble and Mug Club today. So appreciate it. If you're watching on Rumble, of course, you can join at loudwithcrowder.com/Mug Club. We have a lot to talk about today. We have Travis Tritt on the show.
What?
Yeah.
Nice.
Tried to weasel his way into the show
Yeah, I
a couple
did.
weeks ago.
No, we told him no.
And I said
And
no.
he weaseled in.
But enough of you requested him, so we'll have him on the show. And we'll be sort of reviewing the timeline of Sanjay Gupta in Joe Rogan. And look, I know it was fun for everyone to watch Sanjay get pummeled by
Yes.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
But there really is something pretty sinister here that when you have a group of cowards, and that's what you end up with at CNN, a group of cowards who will try to lie their way out of anything, it's a very, very dangerous thing. A lot of us think that cowards are these frail figures who really can just be, are easy of which to be disposed. It's the opposite. A group of cowards are very dangerous, and that's what you're seeing at CNN, and that's why very different behavior when Sanjay was faced with Joe Rogan up front. We have other news to get to. First, Gerald A., how are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm,
A little rumbly?
real rumbly in the tumbly.
Okay.
Oh, that's not good.
Time for something sweet. Quarter Black Garrett, how are you?
Good morning. I'm happy to be on Rumble. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool being
Happy
over
to be
here.
on
The
Rumble.
new space.
Rumble in the Jungle. You know what I'm talking about? That was a big
I
one.
know, it's
that was a
boom.
big fight of the century. And Dave Landau, how are you? You're going to be at Tommy
Ahoy.
T's in Pleasanton, California. So 25th, 26th, 27th, the Improv San Jose,
Wow.
the Improv in Irvine. A California tour, then you're going to get the hell out.
Yes, next week I'm going to be out. I'm going to be doing my California tour. I've had it planned for a while, but we didn't announce it because who knows with California.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it would be a place.
It's
Could be on fire.
There's a pandemic of black white supremacists there.
Yes, there is. There's also a
Running-
pandemic of well-vaccinated dead people.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, well-vaccinated dead people of color, Dave.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
sure
true.
we
That's
get that
true.
right.
It's not killing as many whites.
Nope, it's not.
It's
So
a
come out to
racist
California
What?
if you're white.
Sanger, they're doing better. So, we'll talk about Colin Powell in a little bit because we're watching CNN right now. Look, really quickly, this matters. We don't even need to bring up the sound. General Colin Powell dies at 84 of COVID complications. Okay, and it says he had multiple myeloma, blood cancer that suppresses immunity. First off, thoughts and prayers. Obviously,
Yes.
our heart goes out to the family of Colin Powell. I disagreed with him on a lot of policy, especially toward the end of his life, but I remember reading his biography when I was a young kid, and it was inspirational. I do think that he was a principled man who, like all of us, made some mistakes. And that information that they're talking about, is his blood cancer, is that what they said, or some
Yeah.
kind of a blood disorder.
Yeah, I believe it was colon cancer.
It was colon cancer, yes. colonoscopy, man, he made a killing off of that trademark.
Yes, he did.
That was fun. I'm standing by. Ding your buzzer all you want.
Grab their glove. All right, sir. Are you ready for your Powell?
Oh,
He
wow.
is a war hero.
I've got the power.
That's the power of love. So, that's relevant information.
Yeah.
That's relevant information, the other pre-existing conditions, right? Why isn't that ever included when we're talking about the COVID death rates? In one instance, and I'll tell you why they're talking about that and not revealing to you the most pivotal information in regards to Colin Powell's COVID complications related death. Take a guess. Comment below. Take a guess. Can you take a guess? You guessed right, but we'll get back to it.
Correct.
Before that, Greta Thunberg, who is almost 19, to make clear,
Almost.
made yet another
Yeah.
brave stride in the war against climate change by doing this at the Climate Live concert in Stockholm.
Oh, it's Autism Has Talent.
The masked autist.
Oh, that's what the AGT is. Autistic Greta Thunberg AGT. Thank
The
you.
only way this is acceptable is if it's a Make-A-Wish. And I just want everyone else to use up all their wishes to blow up the entire concert hall. As a joke. As a joke.
You would never, ever want something like that.
No, you would never want something like that.
Plus, global warming is going to kill us all anyway.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm surprised she
Well,
didn't
11
die
years now.
during that clip.
Can someone just start running a Hummer so a laser beam can shoot her off that stage? A laser beam through an ozone hole. Look, here's something, and Quarterback Garrett was saying this before the show. He's like, oh, she's a kid.
She looks like a kid.
Okay, key word is looks.
Oh,
She is not a kid. She's 18. She's 19 years old. That's like Rebecca Black Friday. That's something that a 12-year-old will be doing with a convertible top down. Oh, we found out about Rickroll. Not an 18, 19-year-old girl.
I hear you, but where's Simon Cowell when we need him? I just don't want to cut away
He's
to
just
that.
like, you are
That
trash.
was awful.
It
It's
was awful,
terrible.
and I don't believe in global warming.
It was awful. Are you retarded? Yes.
Oh,
Fancy,
sorry.
yes.
You're 19? Gross. It's even more of a reason not to listen to you.
Not gonna work for me, dog.
You know,
not
this is
gonna
the
work.
thing is we often
Thank you.
this is the second adolescence where we just
Yeah.
this isn't a big deal, but the point is the only reason that's acceptable is because she looks like she's 12 or 14. She is not. Okay? She would have been a part of the war effort in The Greatest Generation, popping in rivets or whatever,
well.
using the machine with the rivets. I know I'm not using the term properly.
Yeah.
The point is she wasn't going to be a Betty Bombshell. Now, the issue is same thing. I've been watching the special on Monica Lewinsky, the what is it on FX?
Yep.
Scandal.
Is that what it's called?
that
No, it's
what it
called
American
impeachment.
Crime Story, I think, right?
American
Impeachment.
Crime Story, impeachment.
All of
Yes,
There's
we
a lot of
definitely
titles.
need
And here's the
30
thing.
episodes to describe that.
Yeah. And they talk about what a victim she is and how she became the brunt of late night jokes. And I understand that, but now the narrative is she was the first person who was bullied in the public eye. Okay, I do get it, and I do think she was young and she was in love, but this wasn't the first time she was sleeping with someone else's husband. It's like, you were 21, 22, 23, you were banging the president who was married. You brought some of it on yourself. 21, 22, 23,
Or an adult.
20 years before Monica Lewinsky is usually a mother of two.
Yeah.
That is true. Well, it was a lot
what
of
she was
Linda
trying to
Tripp,
do.
though.
Yes.
Linda Tripp was largely largely responsible.
She was large and irresponsible.
Yes, that's correct.
She's irresponsibly large.
That's very true.
Offensively rotund.
I don't understand why, you look at, say, Marilyn Monroe, who was possibly drug overdosed by JFK's people.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Why did Monica Lewinsky even make it?
Live.
Yeah, why
I
didn't
think she got her
It's
story out
interesting.
there soon enough. She's like, oh, God, thank
I
you.
think
she had
that's why
cover
the
now.
Clintons were like, you know what, we got to start suiciding everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. What's funny is they did it after I've been on this show and I remember, gosh, in Michigan with Andrew Clavin saying, I'm not a conspiracy. It must have been 7-8 years ago saying, but gun to my head. Okay, Andrew, because I didn't want to go first. Like, gun to your head, do you think the Clintons have killed people? He's like, oh, of course, absolutely. I'm like, me too. I don't think it's a conspiracy. And then
question.
after that,
Who's holding the gun in that analogy?
Yeah.
after that, there were like 3 more.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
the point is, Monica Lewinsky, clean up your act. Now,
I like how somebody's like, they've met a lot of people
Right.
So there's a good chance that
There's
they
a
know a
chance.
lot of people that have committed suicide. It's like, that's not...
That had information
Yeah.
potentially damaging to them.
who
Come
have
on.
to be close friends.
Right.
Yes.
Who
Yeah.
killed themselves in a cell when guards left and
Shot
he was on
themselves
suicide
twice.
watch.
It's normal for the brakes to go out on a new BMW when you're
Yeah.
32 years old 4 times. Yeah.
With a knife mark through the line.
Yeah.
With the brake fluid.
Right.
So,
And with a
Totally.
knife that could be clearly identified from the Senate mess hall. All right.
Hillary's fingerprints on it. The one that's missing from her kitchen.
it's her letter opener. Just stuck in the car.
By the way, next time, Hillary, don't leave your murder weapon that you had engraved at Things Remembered.
Yeah.
So, okay, Colin Powell passed away. And this is, look, it's sad wherever you line up. And I know you have a lot of people who were not, who were unhappy with kind of how he came out against Trump. And and I agree, considering especially the options at that point. Look, I wasn't a Trump guy in the primary, but certainly I would have thought that he'd get on board with re-election. But Colin Powell really is, if you read his story, a fascinating man. So I do think it's a loss, and this is a man who contributed to, the fabric of our society quite a bit. Now, he died of complications from COVID, but here's the thing that they didn't just tell you on CNN, he was fully vaccinated. And Jim Sciutto, for example, can we bring that up too? Jim Sciutto said, hold on a second, breaking, Colin Powell, the first black U.S. Secretary of State, whose leadership in several Republican administrations helped shape American foreign policy for years, has died from complications from COVID. His family said on Facebook he was 84 years old. This is Jim Sciutto from CNN. Now, he's referencing the family on Facebook.
Yeah.
Their post, yeah.
The post on Facebook from the family specifies that Colin Powell was fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Seems like they
Left
should
that
include that.
Now, when they say just reporting the facts, it's okay. Well, technically, you're not lying. He did
Right.
die, and he did die from COVID. And now you're saying, well, should he really count as a COVID death, despite the fact that you thought people who died in motorcycle accidents who happen to die with COVID should be counted as COVID deaths? But you're not including the information that he was double vaccinated?
What's the first question that goes to your mind whenever you see somebody pass away? You
Of
go,
course.
Yeah.
This is
it that?
engineering of the news. This is them wanting to lead you away from the scent of the truth. Technically, they're not lying. Technically, Colin Powell did die. Technically, Colin Powell did have COVID. All of that's true. But it doesn't answer your question. And often, when you don't have your question answered, many people who watch the news, what do they assume? There must not be an answer.
Right, or he must not be vaccinated. It must not be anything that we need to know about because they didn't say it. Otherwise, they would have said it, right? By the way, I'm a little surprised that they were giving such glowing reviews of his career, seeing as he was one of the major WMD guys to get into Iraq, and they hated him. I wonder if it's because he came out against Trump.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
No.
I mean, they would mention it and they would go over it, but they did glowing reviews.
By the way, that's also one of the stupidest myths ever. There absolutely were WMDs. They were found in Iraq. They just weren't nuclear weapons.
Right.
Were they what were they?
Well, there are plenty of biochemical
Biological
weapons
and
when you're
stuff?
talking about this. I mean, there's even a New York Times article you can bring up. We need to stop with the myth that there were no WMDs in Iraq.
Yeah.
They just weren't the right kind of WMDs.
Right.
The intel said we believe they have these WMDs, namely nuclear,
Yeah.
specific forms of biochemical weapons. So I understand bad intel no matter what, but the idea that there were no WMDs in Iraq, that's not true.
At least he gets to meet Hank Aaron.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Oh,
I think they're both in heaven is what he's implying.
No, I understand that, but I think they were also both vaccinated.
That's
and got
correct.
COVID.
Yeah.
And got COVID and died and were around the same age.
All right.
Weird. Not that there's any connection.
Not any
No.
connection
Any
at all.
connection
No.
at all? Of
No.
course not. No, wait, we're not on YouTube. The connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Big connection.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
Yikes.
about that.
Seems to be killing elderly black people at an alarming rate.
Well, you forgot
It's
middle-aged
concerning.
black people at an alarming
Oh,
rate as
that's
well.
true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, people of color.
Yeah.
This is something. So we do need to be. They're friends, but we do need to be honest about it. First, I'll show you the clip that's been circulating, and I want to hear from you what you guys thought about the Joe Rogan Sanjay Gupta interview. We're going to get to that in a second.
I just want to say I thought it was awesome.
Oh, yeah,
It's great.
It's fantastic.
Last week, Project Veritas, they confronted the did you see this video? The Pfizer senior director of worldwide research, Vanessa Gelman. And this video, it's one of the few project where I watched and I was laughing.
Yeah.
They confronted her about her emails she had sent emails trying to cover up that these vaccines ultimately come from a line of fetal cells.
Yeah.
And this is what happened.
Are you Vanessa? Vanessa Gelman. I'm a reporter with Project Veritas.
Vanessa Gelman, who works in Washington, D.C., is Senior Director of Worldwide Research. From Vanessa Gelman, From the perspective of corporate affairs, we want to avoid having the information on the fetal cell lines floating out there. We believe that the risk of communicating this right now outweighs any potential benefit that we could see, particularly with general members of the public who may take this information and use it in ways we may not want it out there.
Miss, why did you send emails telling Pfizer employees not to report that you guys were using fetal cell lining, Miss?
Hasn't
What
run
else
in
are
a
you hiding
while.
from the public? Miss, what else are you hiding from the public? The public needs to know. Well, there you have it. We wanted to ask her a few questions. She broke out into a sprint.
She runs like the girl in Little Miss Sunshine.
Did we make that?
No,
No,
we didn't. No,
not
we
a
didn't.
sketch.
And here's actually the thing, though. In the spirit of full disclosure, a lot of people have accused James O'Keefe in the past of selectively editing videos.
Right,
And when he
yeah.
sends them to us, we always do our due diligence. As a general rule, that is untrue. However, in trying to be objective, we did find that this clip edited some audio out to misrepresent the situation and not show the full context. Here's the original.
Hey, Vanessa?
Dinner time! Come and get it! Dinner time!
Well, that changes the context.
Well, now
yeah,
I
had a
understand.
feeling. It seemed a little
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense now.
By the way, she's doing a really good job with the cardio.
Yes.
It was Taco Tuesday, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
We would all
definitely.
run
You
for
can't
that.
skip it.
That's the supper bell. Supper time. Supper time. Come on, Piggy. Come take the slop.
Home is just over those 4 steps, Shadow.
They really make those Lululemons for everybody.
Oh,
Yeah,
why did she run?
it's really more Lulu grapefruit.
Yeah. Lululemon cake.
Yes. So Lulu, is a kumquat a large fruit? It's fun to say.
No.
Lulu gourds.
Lulumelon.
Okay.
Oh, it's fun talking about
Lulu
it 'cause
shipping
she's
container.
fat.
Just the weird waddle. Like, what's so funny to me is she knows she's lied, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she sees the person in front of her, and she knows she has a decision to make.
Deer in the
And at
headlights.
some point, I want to know what decision lost out to that.
Fight or flight, man.
Like, what she was like, okay, either I can waddle, run away, or what was in this other hand? Was it like, say, I have no comment? Was it deny? Was it accuse him of editing it out of context? But instead, she's just like, I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
It's really
I think
weird.
it was just instant flight or flight. You know, just flight.
Yeah, it's like I could either be honest or the world can see how I run.
Yeah. She had other options. Like she could have just walked.
Yeah,
It could have been like, no, but I guess she was listening to that audio track. Run. That's all just happens.
I'll be honest. I run kind of like that. And if I was stopped, I'd be like, look, I lied.
Yeah, look.
Please get the cameras off
You
me.
don't have to talk to that person. You can literally turn around and do exactly what you did, minus the running like
just
Steven
walk.
Seagal.
Yeah.
Okay, you could just walk home.
Just walk
skipped some steps,
authoritatively
too.
Yes.
to the dinging triangle.
Just leave your headphones in and be like, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, nothing screams guilty like a panic run.
And a reporter.
Like recognition.
Yeah.
Run.
It's the guiltiest action you can possibly take
Yeah.
that may not be admissible in court, but it should be.
What did she do? Well, Your Honor,
Exhibit
you
A.
can see that she ran, and it was really bad.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. I mean, she kind of stumbled with, like, she didn't remember which way the handle of the door went, you know,
Glad she
like
didn't
a horror
fall.
film.
That was close.
So,
Yeah, how do you plead? You run around the courtroom. I see you're guilty.
yes, I see. All
okay,
right,
doing it again, I
well,
guess.
Good, you made my job easy today. All right, so Sanjay, whatever.
The goop.
Sanjay.
The Goop.
The goop.
The goopiest. The Gupta. The Sultan of SWAT.
No, he's not.
No?
Swing? Sultan
Can you
of
say
Swing?
Sultan? and
No.
refer to
No.
names?
Not any of those things.
Either?
The Maharaja.
Well, we're on
Sultan
Rumble.
of
Maharaja
SWAT.
of cowardice.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Maharaja of cowardice. There you go.
Taj Mahals.
Dave just shoehorns that in.
There's basically no reference to it. It works though.
Somehow it fits.
Well, that's his summer home. Yeah. And that's where Anderson Cooper. Well, that's where Anderson Cooper winters in springs and summers and falls.
Yes.
And orders every time he goes to a masseuse.
He seasons.
Yes, he seasons. Oh, Taj Mahal. All right.
The highbrow show.
So let's be clear. Last month, CNN, before we get to the interview with Sanjay Gupta, and I want to explain to you the timeline here. So, CNN lied about Joe Rogan. Sanjay Gupta was confronted. We're going to show you, if it seems like it's a little bit long, you need to see how many times Sanjay Gupta had the ability to be truthful and how he avoided, he obfuscated, weaseled out, and then immediately switched direction when going on CNN, as well as he wrote an op-ed that no one will read, of course, because it was written by Sanjay Gupta at CNN. The timeline
That's true.
really matters here. So let's first show, for context, last month, CNN went after Joe Rogan while he was taking Ivermectin, along with other therapies. When he had COVID, got over it within 3 days. Some would say that's a success story. They were accusing him of taking, quote, horse dewormer for weeks. Here you go.
Joe Rogan just announcing that he's tested positive for coronavirus. Rogan telling his 13 million Instagram followers that he was treated with several drugs, and he included Ivermectin on the list, a drug used for livestock.
One of those drugs he mentioned, ivermectin, is something more often used to deworm horses.
Nope, wrong.
CDC says there's no evidence it works on COVID. Its increased usage has only led to a substantial increase in overdoses after a push by some on the far right,
Not true.
citing vaccine misinformation.
When you have a horse deworming medication that's discouraged by the government, that actually causes some people in this crazed environment we're in to actually want to try it. That's the upside down world we're in with figures like Joe Rogan.
Okay, yeah. And you know the thing is with Brian Stelter, he's just so self-serving. The other day he was talking about the bias of media.
Was he?
Wow.
He was talking about with social media. You know, people just now have the ability to distribute information any way they want.
That's the point.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I understand, true, there is misinformation out there, but there's been just as much misinformation from the mainstream. Think about this for a second, before we go to Joe Rogan, before we go to some other examples. Nick Sandman, the kid, remember who was, Nathan Phillips? He was banging, and he just so happened to have his other tribesman who lives by the old ways of using his Android 16. Make sure it's in panoramic. You go like this, you can get a 360. So Nick Sandman did nothing wrong, and he sued CNN for defamation. He won, or Washington Post and CNN, I don't know, a lot of money off the record, but a life-changing money. Before social media, before shows like this, that's it. You would have thought this was a white supremacist.
Yeah.
White supremacist, who had abused a Native American.
Absolutely.
That's what you would have thought. Before new media, you would have thought that Donald Trump was colluding with Russia to win the election. You wouldn't have known about Hillary Clinton and the Steele dossier and Fusion GPS. So let's be clear. There's been misinformation consistently before the ability for people to come out. We'll talk about Matt Drudge and Monica Lewinsky. They knew. They knew about all of the Clinton affairs, and they didn't think it was an extreme liability, let alone a problem. Took someone like Matt Drudge to come forward. There's so many examples. I get it. It's a double-edged sword. The issue is the media has not suggested or proposed a solution to solving their problem of dishonesty, like saying Colin Powell died of COVID without specifying that he was double vaccinated, which would be entirely relevant. They just want to propose more control over the people who can call them on it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, who do you think invented it, Stelter? Like, who do you think invented misinformation from the media?
We don't want anybody else
The
doing it.
media
We do
did.
it, okay?
For crying out loud, if we didn't have new media, people would still believe the newsletter that Stelter personally sent out claiming he's straight.
Yeah, is Brian?
Nobody believes
Is
that.
Brian Stelter Nathan Lane? Like, I feel like he just puts on a costume. He always looks like he's about to break out into a Broadway song.
When I was an unbiased reporter.
When was that?
Never.
Back
What are
in
you
the
doing?
days.
I was doing something else.
Okay. Right.
I'm surprised every time you see him out, you just don't see a guy get out from under his desk. I'm live. Go.
Yeah. And then a Muppet King. So, okay. So that was all the horse dewormer. You see it. They were very clearly implying that it was only horse dewormer that was used as a majority of the time as a horse dewormer. Also false. You're talking
That's
about
not true.
billions of prescriptions that have been given out. Hundreds of millions each year,
Yeah.
just to be clear. Here is Gupta on, and you've seen this, but I want to show you the timeline so you can understand the danger of cowardice. May seem like a nice guy. Not a guy you can trust. Here's Gupta on with Rogan when he was actually confronted. Feet to the fire.
Calling it a horse dewormer is not a flattering thing. I get
It's
that.
a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing that's a lie that they're conscious of.
They said you are not a horse, you are not a cow. Stop taking this stuff or something like that.
Why would you say that when you're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it making the
Nobel Prize.
winning the Nobel Prize in 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
a drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, motherfucker. This is ridiculous.
You got
This
it
is
with
right
you.
here. Somebody gave it to me.
All right, hang on. The thing is, we're like going so fast. Like I feel like I'm missing.
He's going pretty
I'm missing
slow
youth.
here.
That's a problem that your news network
was not-
lies.
Well, I don't.
Dude.
What did they say?
They lied
What did
and
they
said
say?
I was taking horse dewormer.
Ivermectin can be a very effective medication for parasitic disease, and as you say, it's probably I think what 250 million people have taken it around the world.
More,
I get that.
Way more.
So
way more. Billions of people have taken it.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on the ledger.
You have before we get to that. Does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was yours? You're the medical guy over there. It's defamatory.
It is. Yeah, they shouldn't have done that.
It's defamatory, right?
Well, I don't know if it's defamatory.
I bet it is.
I bet it is. I love these wearing the Cypress Hill shirt. Like, Joe Rogan, come on at ya. Here is something you can't understand. How we could just kill a man. That's what's going through Gupta's head.
He's like, Gupta's like, oh no.
Insane in the brain.
I love it. I love it.
I bet you it is. Guess what? He knows that it is.
I know, and he calls him a couple times. He's like, billions, many more.
Dude.
It's
And-
like, dude, come on.
Look, and the issue wasn't whether ivermectin is 100% proven effective in humans. That wasn't the point. The point was they said Joe Rogan was taking horse dewormer. Why? And this is why a lot of people think that it's more effective than maybe it is. I think that if you look at the clinical data, it looks promising. But the more people lie about it and say horse dewormer, people know who get a prescription from their doctor say, oh, well, that's a lie. Now I'm not going to believe anything that CNN says. Yeah. Here is now Sanjay Gupta on CNN after this, changing his tune.
So it is not a lie to say that the drug is used as a horse dewormer. I think that's important, and it is not
a de-ewer, Lemon?
For COVID. Correct?
That's right. That's correct. It is not approved for COVID. Now, I think what Joe's point
that
is...
It has been approved for humans, but not necessarily for COVID, right? Yeah.
That's correct. It's been used for a parasitic disease, for something it's called river blindness, and it's been very effective for that. But, just because it works for one thing doesn't mean it works for something else.
No one is saying that means it works for something else. However, we use prescriptions off-label all the time, and in many ways they're more effective than the reason they were created in the first place. There are anti-seizure medications that are then used as anti-spasm medications. You have medications that are created out there as antidepressants that end up working for nerve pain. This isn't something new.
Yeah, mace can stop a 4-hour erection.
Yes. What? So can a bite from a Brazilian wandering spider. Well, it'll cause it.
Oh, it'll.
Yeah, oh, that's true.
It'll cause it.
I think you're lying. People are going to spray themselves with mace if they have priapism, and it's just going to hurt worse.
No, I don't think they are. I think they're just going to continue having a good time.
Got to put it to use. It's
Yeah.
there.
Distraction. I mean,
especially if it's the result of them getting their Powell. So, all right.
Powell.
I've got the Powell. Woo! Spread them. Now, here's something even funnier. Gupta was clearly, look, what up? Can I? Oh, yeah, I'm not on YouTube. What a pussy. This is what matters. So this is the kinds of people who are in your media. I'm going to go to Overlay A2, Tokunawa, and I'll go back to the others. He published an article trying to make Rogan sound physically scary as well as unintelligent. So he wrote...
That's what bothered me. And I don't mean to cut you off. It was just that's what really bothered me. What do you think? He was going to attack you on his show?
Right.
Just start hitting you? You had every opportunity to stand up for yourself.
He's holding me accountable.
Yeah,
right.
I can't believe. Part of me thought the MMA, a former Taekwondo champion, might hurtle himself across the table and throttle my neck, with good reason. But instead, he smiled and off we went. Well, that seems like he's pleasant. Joe took great pride in his test, insisting the thickness of his lines must mean stronger immunity, where he's talking about the antibody lines. He was joking, just to be clear. He was joking. I am fairly certain he was joking. Good.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't have the heart to tell him that my antibody line was significantly thicker than his anyways. Well, good for you, Taj Mabal's.
What an absolute pansy.
Look, this is the issue is when how does someone act? You have to see how they act in two scenarios.
Right.
One where they have all the power and one where they don't. And they have to act the same way. Look, to give you an example, right now it is really hard for me to get into the gym after surgery. Why? Yeah. It's pretty tough to get motivated, get out from a warm bed, to know that you're going to a place where it's going to physically hurt you and you'll be weak for a very long time. It's hard to motivate. Like, I'm going to get up and go get physically hurt and be weak today, but guess what? Do it anyway, because I know that I'll do it when I reach a certain level again and you're making progress. Now, what does someone do when they're making progress, when they're at their best in the gym? What does someone do when they're champion, when they're in a position where they're holding the power? Do they keep training? Do they stay on top? Do they stand up for what's right? Are they still fighting? And then what does that person do when they're outnumbered? That's how you define someone's character. And here we just see a perfect contrast of Sanjay Gupta when he is not even outnumbered, but he's in a place where people aren't just going to agree with him. It's not just an agreement sounding board. And he completely changes, and he's afraid, and he doesn't stand up for things, and he tries to make friends. And then you see the contrast with when he's in a position of power. His platform, the platform, by the way, that wants to get rid of platforms like Joe Rogan, like this, to be clear. And all of a sudden, he's a bully again. Yeah, Joe Rogan, that's right. Joe Rogan is incorrect. That's right, he's wrong. Seeing that contrast tells you everything you need to know. Cowards act differently in a gang. Brave people don't.
Yeah. His job was to set the record straight with Don Lemon and say, hey, we've actually been using this incorrectly. It's off-label, yes, but it is safe for human consumption. We've given it to billions of people throughout the years. It won an award. We need to stop saying this. And he did, and he just was like, yeah, you're right. He's the chief medical correspondent for CNN. Yeah. If anything medical happens, it goes through him.
Yeah.
Stand up and have some balls, Sanjay.
Exactly. And he says during it, like, well, yeah, I mean, it does work, and it's been given to a 250 million people. He's like, no, billions of people. He's like, sure, it's worked on billions of people.
Yeah, I mean,
he admits exactly what we wanted to know. Does this work? It does. That's important.
Yeah. No, but it really is important. It's important to understand the character.
Yeah.
How do you think Brian Stelter would act? Well, they won't go on Rogan.
No.
Chris Cuomo won't go on Rogan. They won't go on this show. And then when someone does, they concede and look.
Can you imagine how turned on Stelter would be?
Oh my gosh! It's like, gee, I hope you don't jump across there and throttle my neck.
Yeah,
slap me.
Don't.
Listen,
I disagree.
No, listen, I'm not gonna fucking slap you, bro, or spit in my mouth and spank me. I'm not gonna. What? That's crazy. That's crazy, bro.
Dude.
Look, and I will say this. I've been on Joe Rogan a few times, and we've gotten into we got into an altercation over marijuana when I said, I don't care. It's the thing I care about the least.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I was going, look, don't try and argue that it doesn't increase traffic fatalities if people are driving high, and I didn't have the ability to bring up sources at that point. And then we had another interaction the next day. Just to be clear, the next day, Joe Rogan came on our show, and he felt bad about that interaction and said that it wasn't him at his best. That's a perfect example. We were there. Look, you may not like where I line up. I didn't want it to be a conflict. It ended up being the longest podcast in Joe Rogan's history at that time. I think it was like 5 hours.
Jeez.
I had to pee so badly.
You missed a flight.
Yeah, I missed a flight. I had to pee so badly. We missed the show the next day because of it.
Yeah.
I had to pee so badly. I think we missed a show. It was the day after that Rogan came on.
Yeah.
That I couldn't start peeing. Have you ever had that? It's like there's so much pressure built up. You almost like need to pop it with a needle. Anyway, the point is 5 hours I had to pee so bad because he was giving me coffee, whiskey. It was just a bad combination. But then after that, when Joe Rogan had nothing to gain, he also said, I think this is the right thing to do. And I've respected him for that. Yeah. And I've criticized him when I think it's fair. And I've certainly supported him when I think it's warranted. And he certainly warrants a lot more support than he does criticism when you understand the risks that he's taken and that he has done this on his own. But seeing what someone does when they are powerless and watching what they do when they are powerful, that tells you the character of a man. Those two in tandem. And we just so happen to see it with Sanjay Gupta. And you know what? I don't respect you a lot, my friend. The only person I respect less is Chris Cuomo. And Brian Stelter is an amoeba. I can't have respect nor disrespect. I can't feel anything. Let's just be clear, too. This is the same this journalist tactic. Remember the New York Times? They said that Officer Sicknick at the Capitol.
Yeah.
He was killed by being bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere. Well, it turns out that's not the case. Well, then they don't cover it.
No. They issue a retraction on page 74.
Right. Remember the
What
Tom Cotton
happened?
debunked lab theory? Oh, he didn't get killed by a fire extinguisher. He went home, walked home, said he was fine to his family, went into his room, and he had a stroke.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah, but they said, now in other words, maybe the stress didn't help from the day.
I'm sure.
Sure. But he wasn't beaten to death with a fire extinguisher.
No.
Very, very different. Then the media just moves on. Remember Tom Cotton? They just went after him, said he was a racist for the lab leak theory.
Yeah.
Right? Then they also tried to ghost Jon Stewart for suggesting it was a theory. It was racist. And then when they find out, they just go, "Ooh, we'll just move on." Same thing with Nick Sandmann. This is a racist. This is what's wrong with America. They almost destroyed a kid's life.
Yeah.
And the only reason these issues are corrected is because of people like Joe Rogan and because of programs like this. And that's why we are currently suspended on YouTube. Hey, want to bet they're not going to cover female inmates getting pregnant in prisons on CNN? Want to bet they're not going to cover the Loudoun County situation where girls were serial raped at CNN? But they want to remove the outlets that do. And when Sanjay Gupta was faced with that outlet, when he went on that outlet, and I remember him saying, I've never had a 3-hour conversation with anyone in my life. Then you've lived an asshole's life. Do you understand that? Then you are the problem if you only learn how to speak in sound bites. You haven't learned how to interact with human beings. And you and your producers over there, okay, Zucker and Griffin at MSNBC, and yes, the folks at Fox News who said change my mind would never work because it had to be sound bites. You are the reason for the divisiveness in the media. Don't blame the people who are fighting back. You pussies. I can say that here. And
You can.
I've been bothered for the last 10 minutes.
okay?
So really quick, I'll tell you, well, first off, follow us on Instagram and on TikTok if you're watching here on Rumble. Of course, Mug Club, the best thing you can do. It's a live show Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, right? On Mug Club.
Hit that Rumble button.
Hit
Hit
that Rumble button. Smash that Rumble button. Do you hear it?
Spank
Smash
it.
the Rumble button. Leave a comment. I keep getting this message. I can see it from...
What's wrong?
It's Travis Tritt, and it's on my iPad here. Okay, he's actually in an Uber with who he thinks is a terrorist, so he's asking me to pick him up.
Oh, jeez.
All right, guys, I will be back. Time for a Chinese fire drill. I'm going to go get Travis Tritt, and then I'll be back. Dave, Gerald, fill in for me.
What is happening? Joe Lewis doesn't feel good about it.
Travis Tritt, I'm coming!
Hey.
Oh, I don't.
No.
Here- No. Austin. No, get out. No. Go.
Yeah, get it.
Leave now.
No.
Why is he here?
Railroads.
He's
Get
still in here. Get out.
No, he's taking the dog.
Today?
Yeah, he's taking the
Oh,
dog.
don't eat the
Don't
dog.
eat Joe Lewis.
Oh, come on.
Is he putting
R.I.P.
salt on
Joe
him?
Lewis right now.
R.I.P. man.
I almost just ran off with the headphones on.
You did run off with the headphones on. I saved your life.
You did. You saved me. Which
He was
I
about
really
to be
appreciated.
clotheslined in about 2 more feet.
I know, and we could have clotheslined the Asian. And here we are.
Hey, by the way, I did get a little bit of a message that that Travis is on a bit of a clock, so we may have to skip the Pete.
Skeet?
Yeah.
Skeet the Pete story, don't you
We
know?
might
hey?
have to skeet.
Skeet. I'm gonna sit up in this chair so I don't appear fat.
Well, thank you. Is that at me?
Oh, wait. That
No,
sounded
that's
like a dig
me.
at Dave.
You are not fat. You're a tall string bean. You are a glass of water.
I am just gonna do this.
Yeah, that never
So
helps
speaking
me.
of speeding it along.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's see if we can slow this down as much as possible. Ahoy, everybody.
There you go.
Hey,
Yeah.
this week in Biden.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. When I talk to all your folks out in the playground, as I joked, and said, everybody knows I like kids better than people. Fortunately, they're like me. That's why maybe I like them. But all kidding aside, we have fewer democracies in the world today than we did 15 years ago. Fewer. Not more, fewer. Cannot be sustained. Wear a mask. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Thank you, Adolf. That is.
The banging on the podium is the best part. I think.
And I just love that everything he says is meaningless, so
Yes.
there's never a reaction.
Yeah, people are like,
People. He needs an applause sign like he's late night
Yeah,
television
exactly.
because
Not
people
sure.
don't know where to go.
Like we need like a multiple gasp, right? Cheer, applaud.
Yeah.
Like they have no idea what to do. They're like, is he having a stroke right now? Is he going to come back to us?
They don't know.
No?
Like you're a smart glass of water. Is what he said about democracies true?
Fewer, Dave.
Fewer.
It's not
true?
sustainable.
I feel like there's well, whatever.
I have no idea. I'm not sure what his point was.
I mean, if he's talking about the country that he's trying to ruin, then he's
Ah,
right.
yes,
Yeah.
that's
He's
true.
like here, where I'm trying to take away the democracy.
Not sustainable.
Oh,
my
was that the sketch?
That's it. We're good. Yes. So
Good.
skip Pete. We're going to talk about Pete's day off here next time. We'll talk.
You don't
about
want to talk about Pete
Not today.
Buttigieg's
We don't have
maternity
enough
leave?
time to talk about his
I'm glad.
paternity leave.
Okay,
day
well,
with
let's
Pete.
talk. You want to talk about how Johnson & Johnson is
do it.
3% effective?
Oh my gosh.
What I love about that is Johnson & Johnson is the
Family company.
Family company,
Right.
as we've called it, way more tears.
Yeah.
And Johnson & Johnson, 3% effective, which is kind of like going to defuse a bomb, and instead of giving you the suit, they just hand you a jock strap. Like, this should work out for you.
Go have fun.
Like, oh, do I need Kevlar when we raid this place? No, it's fine. Just tape pennies to your nipples. So what is being missed in the Goop and Rogan interview is this clip where the Goop talks about the vaccine.
Clip G.
So for you, Joe Rogan.
Yes.
I would say you've had it.
Yes.
So now get one shot of the vaccine.
No.
Why not?
Because I have better immunity than I would if I was vaccinated. Right?
Yes.
Don't I?
I think your immunity is really good.
So why, if I've already gotten through COVID and I was really only sick for a day, and then 5 days later I was negative, and I do have the natural antibodies now, why would I take a chance in getting vaccinated on top of that?
By the way, I'm glad you're better. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
it only lasted a day.
You're probably the only one at CNN that's glad.
No.
So he admits that Rogan's right about natural immunity and is like, you should still take this thing.
Yes.
But why?
You should take that
Yeah.
risk of doing it.
Because he was embarrassed and he thinks it might kill him,
Yeah.
like half the people that seem
Take
to
him
be
out.
taking. You should take the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
You know, he didn't have any real good reason for him, too. Like, he asks him the question.
No.
He's like, why?
He was like, why
and Gupta
not?
just is like, because?
He said his natural
I said so.
immunity is better than the vaccine, and then was like, you should also take the vaccine. It's like, you don't sound like a doctor.
You sound like a
You
salesperson.
sound
like a propagandist, maybe.
Yeah, kind of like a dick.
A little bit.
This claim is backed up by the study from Israel, which found those who had naturally caught COVID, of course, were 27 times less likely to be reinfected with symptomatic COVID than those who had been vaccinated.
Shocking.
Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting.
You know what's
it's
fun?
almost like that's a scientific study that could have told us something.
Yeah, it's almost like I just read that and I knew what it meant. To be fair,
almost.
It's very close. Not quite.
That actually is a frightening piece of evidence, isn't it? To be fair, the study did also push for one shot, even after being infected with COVID. That makes sense. You want to get sick with the disease and then get the vaccine.
Right. I remember when this study
like
came out.
you did with HPV.
Well,
everyone knows about your genital warts.
That's a secret.
Publicly?
Dave.
Oh, did not know.
No way that should have made air.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Thank God we're on Rumble today.
What was the point you were making? I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying I love how they pivoted after this, and Gupta kind of played into that, saying, yeah, it's 27 times, you're 27 times less likely to get reinfected with bad symptoms of COVID, but we just don't know how long it's going to last. The thing that we're just talking about here, how long did the vaccines last?
Well, no one knows.
How durable are they?
We can't. You still get diaper rash, and we haven't figured out. We think we figured out COVID. We
not
can't
making
cure
a lot
a
of progress.
cold, and we're like, wow. Now there's a super cold. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah, super cold. Tokenawan. Did you hear about super
Yeah,
cold?
super cold.
Yeah.
What's super cold?
It's coming out of the UK, I think.
Yep.
It's always the UK.
Well,
and China.
Wuhan.
UK variant.
Well, what it
Wuhan's
is
not a suburb of London.
They speculate. So don't get. Well, we're on Rumble. Who cares? They speculate that it's
Rumble.
because the immune system is messed up from the vaccine.
Oh, yeah,
that
I
it
have
could
heard
be
that
causing
stuff.
a cold.
Yeah.
That's super cold.
Ugh.
And it's only a super cold because it's actually same cold. Your body just can't fight it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Look at Did you pull that up? Did you see it?
Oh my
Super
gosh.
cold.
Super cold.
The worst.
It's
cold.
the
How many
worst
how many
cold.
iterations later? This will be listed as a side effect, by the way. Like that commercial where there's 74 side effects, one of which is dying in your sleep, and it's like, oh, I think
That's a big side
I think I'll go with
Yeah.
restless leg syndrome instead of dying in my sleep.
Yeah,
So it's like, okay, this is probably one of those things that's gonna happen.
Yeah, you make it Hank Aaron disease,
Yeah.
Lou Gehrig disease, all sorts of disease. But why would you risk getting the vaccine after you already risked COVID? Yeah, like you said, if you're 27 times less likely, and given the waning effectiveness, getting the vaccine even before natural infection doesn't seem to make much sense unless you are a particularly high-risk category. Remember the study that found Pfizer's effectiveness dropped to 42% in July?
Jeez. In July.
That's July
It's like
alone.
5-ish months, 4 months.
It dropped more than 1% a day.
It's like a brand new car.
Yes.
You drive it off the lot, and it's worth nothing.
In the longest a month gets.
Yeah.
The study compared vaccinated versus unvaccinated with a sample size of 25,000.
Big number.
Yeah, it's pretty big, but at a huge confidence interval of 13 to 62%.
Also known as confidence. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a little double speak there.
I wanted you to catch that. I'm glad you got it. Thank you.
Confidence.
Meaning the action. I know it just goes back to the.
It happens.
No,
I don't judge. I'm retarded. So.
No, I'm mildly retarded.
Oh,
I'm kind of retarded.
I'm not like
Retarded
singing
brothers.
retarded and stopping the ice caps from melting.
You haven't hit that level yet.
Yeah.
If our future is made up of more of her, bring on the melting.
Yeah.
Are you
Hey,
like
some of those asteroids they're talking about passing the
Where's
Earth?
that?
Yeah, are you Save the Pandas retarded, or are you mopping Taco Bell bathrooms retarded?
There are different levels.
The actual you read this.
So the actual efficacy in that study they were talking about with 25,000, the interval's 13 to 62. It could be as low as 13% effective.
It's terrible. A few
That's
weeks
low.
ago, CNN reported
That's terrible.
That's so
it's gotten
low.
even worse.
Wow.
They did. Pfizer's effectiveness against infection has dropped to just 20% months later.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
We're not
this
even a
is-
year in.
No,
Not even close.
Well, so far, I'm just glad to see that this vaccine's working.
Yes, thank
and
God.
there's a bunch of different companies making money off of it.
At least a handful of percent of the time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. This is like if I came to work and shot someone in the face and got a raise. And no offense, I might.
Well, it depends on
No,
who.
you're not a politician.
No, I'm not. No. And why are we talking about Clinton again? And this past Thursday, a new and not yet peer-reviewed study of 620,000 military veterans found the Johnson & Johnson vaccine fell from 88% effectiveness against the disease in March to just 3% in August.
That's insane. In a very short period of time, down to 3%. Can you imagine getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and thinking you're
No.
going to go? Well, I know you can't. It's that's the
like
very
a-
best.
That's the
a
thing.
thought experiment.
I talk about this on stage. I'm a recovering drug addict. I've done cocaine off of holes. It's just a matter of I've not been particularly non-liberal or conservative about what I put in my body.
Right.
And this terrifies me.
Yeah.
This is where you draw
Kind
the
of
line.
concerning.
I've bought acid off of goth kids. And I'm like, I'll shove that right in my mouth.
Absolutely, it's acid.
It's not a
fantastic.
problem at all. But this, I question this. That bothers me.
Understandably so.
And I'm going to be honest about something here too that I don't know if I should bring up, but I do want to be. My friend died of COVID, and he died, and he had the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and he lived in L.A. where he's surrounded by everybody who's vaccinated and pro this and everything else. And he's dead. So, fuck you, Johnson & Johnson.
Oh,
from the
jeez.
bottom of my heart.
From the
Pardon my
bottom.
language if you have kids in the room, but I think in the next few years they're going to learn that term as the world collapses.
And we got about three minutes, I think.
We
until
only have
Mr.
3 minutes
Tritt.
left?
Mr.
Yeah.
Tritt is going
He's on
to.
his way.
He said he's going to bust through the
well,
door
let's just zip through then.
one way or the other.
Oh, yeah. Should we do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, in just a minute. We can zip through this, right?
Which one do you want to do real quick? We got like 2 minutes.
We got 2 minutes. So basic. Look, let's skip all that. I just want to talk
Let's
to
just
you about
go
this
right
for a
through
second,
here.
right?
Let's talk about it.
So this vaccine, right, this study they're talking about, which was a huge population study. We've had studies like this before. Stephen mentioned that 25,000 number that we talked about just a minute ago.
Yes.
Like weeks and weeks and weeks ago when we talked about this. He said, this study's out there. I know, I can't remember if it's 25,000 or 50,000. There's studies every day coming out showing how poorly these vaccines are holding up over time. Everybody needs to remember that people weren't really starting to get vaccinated until the spring. So we're not talking about last November, even though these things started to roll out for elderly populations, at-risk people, people who worked in nursing, doctors. This stuff is falling so fast right now. We have no idea what it's going to be like next year. And yet you have doctors like Sanjay Gupta going out on CNN daily, and they're questioning whether having natural immunity from actually acquiring COVID and recovering is better. Why?
And cherry picking what it's used for. That's what bothers me the most.
Absolutely. And then just dogging every other piece, like Ivermectin is a joke, or Pfizermectin is a joke, because it's like you're saying this is horse dewormer, and yet this pill has been around forever, and the government has recommended it to people coming to this country from third world countries, and the guy won a Nobel Prize for it.
Yes, and like any woman has ever told me, not telling you everything that happens is a lie.
That's true.
So they are lying to you. And that,
wait. I think that's
Stephen is here with Travis
he
Tritt.
made it back. Boom.
Okay.
Look at that. It's magic. Who's this over there? Who's this? Who's this over there? Oh, that's, I don't know how many multi-platinum, how many times have we gone platinum? Well, it's Travis Tritt. His new album, by the way, is Set in Stone. But it's almost like I said when I met Clint Eastwood one time. Yeah. And I don't typically get fazed by celebrity, but I didn't know what to say to him. Like, what do you pick from his catalog? It's like, I love doing Every Which Way But Loose. You know, I mean, so I don't know what to pick. I mean, you've Travis Tritt, and your new album is Set in Stone. Where can people get it?
Everywhere.
Okay, everywhere. That's pretty much what I figured. I was trying to give you something specific. I don't know if you get a kickback from big Set in Stone.
Do they have like those CD stores in malls still, or
are those still a thing?
I don't even know if they do or not. I don't think they do.
Oh,
you know, because streaming has taken over just about everything. But we did do on this particular album, we did a special edition for Walmart.
Okay,
where we combined not only the album as we recorded it originally with all electric instruments, but we also came back and did the same songs acoustically with all acoustic instruments.
Okay.
And made that a package that only is available at Walmart.
Only available at Walmart.
Only available.
Okay. So you did it so you had both versions, not like a Taylor Swift where you redid your own song.
No, that's right. That's correct.
Okay, so
I don't do anything like Taylor Swift.
How many platinum certifications do you?
Man, I've lost track.
I think it's 7 that have
Is it
at
7?
least reached platinum. You had a triple platinum album as well, which is amazing.
That's almost unheard of.
Yeah. Very, very good.
I think we've sold 30 million albums worldwide.
That's a lot.
And he's not difficult like that fruit Don Henley. So I'm.
I love it.
Come on, I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag that Don Henley is a character here.
It's not breaking news.
So, and people here know you are, like I've always said, my favorite country musicians. You both have Travis in the name. Randy Travis.
Yes.
Yourself. Really, you would be the top two. And you know what's happened with Randy Travis is obviously sad.
Yes, it is.
But "Great Day to Be Alive" is my reset song when I go up to the lake house. I have to listen to it, and it sets my mood. It's one of my favorite songs ever. It's not. I don't know if it's necessarily what you would consider your best song, but for me, there's a mental place I go to in my mind because I remember when I first heard it as a kid and just loved it.
It's one of those songs that just connects with people. I can't tell you how many people have told me over the years that is their wake-up song.
Oh, really?
First thing in the morning, and it just puts them in a good mood for the entire day.
So you obviously you write these songs.
I didn't write that one.
You didn't write it?
I did not write that.
Because I was going to ask you about the soup.
I did not write that one.
There's a lot of talking about like food in the song. Some homemade soup. I'm like, this guy likes.
I've never known anybody that cooks rice in a microwave either. I've never met anybody. That was one of those things.
Whoa, not the Uncle Ben's like.
You lost a portion of your Asian fans are like, hey, no. Yeah, so so there you go. I was going to ask. I was like, that's just, but it also is. That's also why it kind of works. I feel is because it's not being grandiose. It's just, it's a great day to be alive, and general things that you take for granted, like homemade soup.
The writer of that song actually wrote that song. He had a back injury, and he was lying on his floor. That was the only place in the world that he could go and not be in excruciating pain. And he was lying on the floor of his house, and one morning he saw the sun coming through the skylight, and he started realizing, you know, even though I'm in this horrible, horrible position, at least I woke up today, and it's a great day to be alive. And he wrote that song basically as an inspiration to himself for being thankful that, you know, he was recuperating, and it was taking a long time.
So wrote it from his back, basically.
Exactly.
That's a horrible place to eat soup. That guy's full of crap.
It's not adding up.
Great day to be alive too. It burns. For people who haven't heard it, it's an unbelievable song, and there are so many great songs that you've. Do you have one that's one of your, as cliche as it is? Do you have one that's one of your favorites from your catalog?
Oh man, that's like asking me to pick which one of my kids I love the most. I love the songs that you don't really anticipate. We don't ever know as a songwriter. I never know what's going to be a hit and what's not.
Right.
I mean, I've written some of the songs that I thought were the greatest things in the world, and you get them out in front of an audience, and for whatever reason, they just don't work. On the other side of that coin, I've written songs that I never thought anybody would latch onto. Here's a Quarter is a perfect example of it.
Really?
I wrote Here's a Quarter after going through a divorce, and I wrote it basically to just cheer me up.
Right.
You know, because I was kind of depressed about it.
Sure.
I wrote it as just a little thing, and I wrote it in about 15 minutes. And
Every songwriter out there hates you right now.
Yeah, like, oh, wow, great.
I never intended for anybody to ever hear that song but me. And I would literally play it when I would start, you know, getting depressed or whatever about, you know, the marriage being over or whatever. I would sit down and play that song, Here's a Quarter, Honey, Call Someone Who Cares, and just chuckle to myself and go on with my day. It was a little pick-me-up. And I was on stage, as a matter of fact, in Fort Worth, Texas, at Billy Bob's back in the late 80s.
Yeah.
And we were playing on the front stage, opening for all the other acts, the big headliners that were coming through. And I always had a portion in my show where I would send the band off stage, and I would just sit there with an acoustic guitar and play 2 or 3 songs, whatever just popped into my head. And one night at Billy Bob's, something said, play that song. And I played it, and there were about 3 program directors from local radio stations around Dallas, Fort Worth, that were there that night. And they came up to me as soon as the set was over, and they said, where can we get a copy of that? And I said, it's never been recorded. I said, I just played that for the first time. As a matter of fact, it's never been played before tonight. And they said, if we had a copy of that, we would add that song immediately, right now.
Wow.
And I knew we had something. And of course, it was going to be several years before I ended up recording it. But as soon as we did record
So it was like a real life Oh Brother Art Thou, the song.
Exactly.
Give me the song about 'em boys.
That's exactly.
And was there a little part of it too that also was gave you a little extra because it was about the ex-wife?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Because
I mean that one's like a laser guided missile. Not many people have the opportunity to.
Well, what inspired that song was actually I came home from work. I was working a regular day job. I was working at a heating and air conditioning wholesale company when she and I were together, and that was my second marriage.
Right.
So I'd already been through divorce once, and that was my second one. And I came home, and she had moved everything out of the house while I was at work during that day. So I thought I'd been robbed. And so several weeks later, I get a knock on the door from the sheriff's department, and they're serving me with divorce papers. And I'm looking through these divorce papers. Now, this is before I was just entertaining the idea of getting into a music career, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking through the divorce papers, and she wants not only a portion of my all the songs that I had written, but she wants a portion of any potential record deal that I might get in the future. And I'm sitting here just reading all this stuff, and I think, this is crazy. And right in the middle of reading that, the phone rings, and it was her. And she said something along the lines of, maybe we're rushing into this. Maybe we're, maybe we need to think about, reconciliation, that sort of thing. And as I'm reading all of this stuff on the,
you're thinking, I wish I bolted down the furniture. Maybe you could write your next song from your back about soup.
We're both rethinking decisions, aren't we?
So she's saying she's reconciliation. You're on the phone with her.
And so I hung up the phone, and I thought to myself, it took me about 2 seconds to realize, nope, this has gone way too far, way too much water under the bridge. Here's a quarter, honey. Call someone who cares, because this is done. This is over.
So you said those words.
I did.
You did?
And I wrote the song, like I said, in about 15 minutes, just to kind of cheer me up.
Yeah.
But that was my Kiss Off song.
Wow.
Based off of a real experience that I was.
And you didn't expect it to be what it was. That's
never expected.
We've talked about that sometimes too with what we do. Sometimes we'll have segments that will I'll go, what? That got how many million plays? People care about that? And we'll be very surprised. And sometimes you'll hit all the notes, like, this is a trend, people care about this, this topic's popular, and it doesn't work. I mean, you have a little bit of an idea, I would say.
You do.
But then sometimes the rule book just has to, and the problem is executives play by a rule book a lot of the time.
That's
and
right.
They want to put you into this box.
And there's no accounting for what people's tastes are.
Right.
And there's no accounting for what is going to resonate with people.
Yeah.
Give you another example. Great Day to Be Alive.
Yeah.
Nowhere near as big a hit chart-wise as Here's a Quarter.
Here's a Quarter.
It never charted anywhere close to number one.
Part of that might have been the, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the video, you were wearing a Canadian tuxedo, weren't you? Weren't you in all jeans? Or
No, I was.
Because in Canada, you still had the mullet. And that was a tough sell. Because, Terry Clark and like Shania Twain, like they were often on the Canadian country music.
Sure.
And then you are very clearly American. I just remember that video being like, oh, this is exactly what I would expect.
It was just one of those things where I thought the song was great. I thought it deserved to have a shot. But for whatever reason, radio stations, of course, they were the gatekeepers at that point.
Time. Yeah.
Back in the 90s, if you didn't get radio to play your stuff,
right,
you're never going to have a career.
Do you prefer the way it is now? Or do you prefer the way that... Because now the gatekeepers end up somewhat being, ironically, the big tech companies. I don't know what it is in music, but...
Well, it eliminates a lot of ass-kissing.
That's true.
Yeah. Back in those days, you had to literally go through those gatekeepers in order to be able to have a career. And it was so random. I mean, you had payola and all these other different things that were taking place. And
wow, Travis Tritt must really like that Schenectady Chrysler Ford dealer. Yeah. You have to do those where you like do a little kickback, right? I used to have to do that on AM radio. They're like, would you host from this car lot? I'm like, no. But yeah.
It was crazy. And nowadays you don't have to do that as much because terrestrial radio, I mean, it's obviously still there, but it's not the be-all, end-all.
No, it's not. On the flip side of that, though, is at least with what we do, you basically have three companies that control information.
Sure.
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, effectively. And right, YouTube is Alphabet owns Google, and then Facebook owns Instagram.
Correct.
So it's become a little scary now because the consolidation of power is almost worse. I know with music it's a little different because you have Spotify and Pandora.
Yeah.
But you say less ass kissing, and we're going to go to Muggle after this to talk more about music. But I wanted to touch on this. You gave the statement not too long ago about how important our freedoms and our liberties are.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that you would think it wouldn't be that big of a risk in the country music community. Sometimes I'm surprised at some of the ass kissing that seems to take place in the country community to the media elites, because what you said, a lot of people supported it, a lot of people didn't. I'm sure I'm not giving you any news. Can you tell people who missed it what it was that and why you felt you wanted to speak out about this?
Well, basically, when Eric Clapton made the statement about the freedoms being infringed upon, that really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And I basically agreed with him. across the board, aside from the personal effects that he had from getting the vaccine.
Right.
But I just agreed, just from a philosophical standpoint, about we have to preserve our freedoms.
Yeah.
That we've never been in a situation that I know of in this country where the government has been allowed to force you to take medicine that you may or may not need.
Right.
And that choice should be left up to the individual.
Yeah.
So my statement was basically about, not so much about the vaccine per se. I'm one of those people that believes if you think you should get vaccinated, by all means do so.
Absolutely.
If you're one of those people that feels the need to mask everywhere you go, indoors, outdoors, wherever, by all means do so. Where I have a problem with is those people who try to force that ideal onto people that don't feel that they...
Maybe they had COVID. You know, that's not even taken into account
Exactly.
here, when we're talking about the science. But here's what's interesting to me about that. I don't think anything that you've just said is controversial at all. It really, at any other point in time, wouldn't be. But to me, what is crazy, we're talking about, Eric Clapton. And then I grew up, I love country, but I really grew up with punk rock and hip hop.
Sure.
And there was this group, Rage Against the Machine.
Yes.
Funny enough, their emblem is Che Guevara, who they don't understand was a socialist, a dictator who hated blacks, hated gays, and was found with an entirely loaded weapon in Bolivia, saying, I'm worth more to you alive than dead. A total coward. But Rage Against the Machine and then campaign for Obama and Biden. And when you have artists out there who are, this is rare, any form of creative expression, whether it's music, whether it's comedy, there should be a bent towards having a general mistrust of authority. There are artists out there right now demanding, for the first time, less freedom, demanding fewer rights. That's not a rock and roll thing.
Didn't Rage Against the Machine fire their drummer because he refused to get vaccinated?
Is that true?
I think it is.
I thought I heard that too.
Well,
I think it is true.
cannot confirm.
And
is there anything more machine?
First of all, is there
you will take the $19 billion a quarter vaccination?
Is there anything less punk rock than that?
Yeah.
I maybe Avril Lavigne. But that's one on me. By God, that's what I'm trying to say.
It's punk rock and roll really has always been a bit about rebellion.
Right.
It's always been about that. What is the least rebellious thing that you could possibly do going along with the whole status quo? It's just
also who's the least the least rocket is former Vice President Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Like at least with Barack Obama, but you get it. You know what I mean? You go like, all right, I understand. He seems like a cool guy. At that point, he's a guy. He's a man of the people. It's a change. George W. Bush is easy to come across as at that 100%. Point establishment. But Joe Biden. When you people like Michael Bublé out there going, we must stand with Joe Biden. I'm like, and for people who don't know, I mean, you're kind of a melding of country and rock and roll.
I am.
You have one of those voices where if people ever tune into The Voice or American Idol, you're kind of a litmus. People will use you as a comparison. They'll say, you know what? You have that really kind of good rock country, like a Travis Tritt style voice. That's one thing that you have that there aren't many artists who have. If someone says Travis Tritt type voice, people go, oh, I know exactly what that is.
Well, that was God-given, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But one of the things that I found out very early, because everybody is influenced by somebody.
Right.
And what you don't want to do is become a carbon copy of the people that you were influenced by.
Right.
I remember when I first got started, because I was a huge fan of Hank Williams Jr., a huge fan of George Jones, huge fan of Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash. And I, for a brief moment at the very beginning of my career, I tried to pattern myself after Hank Williams Jr. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody in Nashville pulled me to the side and they said, listen, we've already got one Hank Williams Jr. We don't need another, right? Yeah. So you got to find your own voice. And that really pushed me to do exactly that. Yeah. I went out and found my own voice. And that was one of the things that came out of that was anytime anybody heard my voice on the radio, they knew who it was within the first 3 notes.
Yes.
Because it didn't sound like anybody else.
Well, also because you're a show-off. Usually you make the notes
That's
very
true.
hard.
It's absolutely
They're
true.
not easy songs to sing. We did a parody. Actually, that's how we felt. We did Great Day to Be Alive, and because of the copyright stuff, I remember we did a parody of Great Day to Be Alive, but it was when all the riots were going on. Yeah. And no one could sing it. It's very hard here. No, but that is a gift, and it's like the same thing happens with stand-up. I had one period of time, a guy named Nick DiPaolo, who's I think one of the best ever, and I was listening to him. Yeah, we probably should have put him closer to the table. He's got to reach over here.
Oh, you know.
All right.
It's my fault.
I'll send a cable.
Yeah. It's one of those things they use with the fish bowls with the food. But I realized, oh my gosh, I'm starting to sound like Nick DiPaolo, and I just was going through a phase where I was listening to him so much.
Sure.
And in singing, there are artists who sort of lift styles, and
They
obviously
do.
you're unique in that. I don't think anyone would ever accuse you of doing that. But in stand-up, it's very obvious. If you're all of a sudden, if I start, fucking talking like I'm from Boston, I'm talking.
Right.
Who? That's not Steven.
Yeah.
So it's a little more obvious, but
Exactly.
And it's so hard because in stand-up, you're just so influenced by people, because that's the best way to start, is at least emulate the best qualities of
It
someone
is.
who you admire.
It is.
Yeah.
100%.
So you don't have to work another day in your life. Let's be honest here. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but you're still touring and you're doing these shows. Do you want now, because now you've been more outspoken too politically, do you feel as though that's sort of almost a responsibility because you have so many people who follow you? Because it would be easy to not speak out against the infringement of rights.
Well, here's the one thing. First of all, I am very outspoken about my views on things, but I never let that cross over into my performances.
Right.
Because the way I've always looked at it is people that pay their hard-earned money to come and see me perform, to come and see a show, they're not coming to hear my political views.
No.
They're coming to hear my music. And so I've always known that, and I've always kept the political views, and there's a lot of artists that don't. But you'll never hear me ever on any stage where I'm performing. You'll never hear me espouse my political views. I just don't. I don't talk about that. That's for a different place.
Right. You do it on your other outlets, though.
Yes, exactly. I'll do it on Twitter.
Yeah, because it's a bait and switch. If someone's showing up to hear, here's a quarter,
100%.
and then you're talking about I don't know, artificial sweeteners or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. We
And
need
the
a break.
fact is,
Yeah, we need
those
a break from that stuff.
those fans, I've never lost track of the fact that my fans, those people, because I used to be one. I used to be, and I still am. I'm a fan, but I remember when I was working a regular job, saving up my money, and then going and standing in a long line outside of back in the days when they had record stores, to buy tickets to go see my favorite,
Nowadays, it's just Taylor Swift's shoe closet. I think she owns everything. Isn't that the rule right now?
Yeah, pretty much.
But I remember being one of those people, camping out overnight so I could get, good tickets to go see somebody.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten that. And the fact is that those fans, I've never forgotten the fact that they spend their hard-earned money, that they work 40, 50, 60 hours a week to earn, and they're willing to spend some of that money to purchase my music when I come out with new product, and occasionally they'll spend it on a concert ticket to come out and see me play. And I've never lost sight of that. And they're really the only ones that matter.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that have ever mattered.
I've always felt that way too. I see a lot of people in sort of the arena of what I do, and they get a little bitter, and they sort of, and I go, look, it's easy to, of course you can get bitter at the industry or people in the industry or the gatekeepers.
Sure.
But you do have to serve the people who support you. That's what it is. Sometimes you have these artists who go, oh, I just want to do this for me. And it's like, well, art that if it's just done for yourself isn't really of any value. No. Sure, you can experiment. You shouldn't be dictated by polls.
No.
But these are the people who matter.
That's exactly. When I first got started, I came out as part of a class of about 4 or 5 people. It was called the Class of '89 in country music history terms. Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, Clint Black, myself, all released our first singles in 1989.
Now, which class was Chris Eagle? What was the Garth Brooks character that he did?
Oh, Chris Gaines?
Yeah.
I
Which
don't
class
know.
was he also 89 or was he
No,
later?
that was a different.
That was a weird.
That was later.
That was a
little bit
weird
later
time
on.
in history.
That was later.
Popularity was already cemented by that point.
You know how I found out about that? Again, I was in Canada and I was going. There was one Walmart. It actually wasn't really a Walmart. It was technically, I think, a Woolworths. And anyways, but I were walking by and seeing a picture, going, that guy kind of looks like Garth Brooks.
It was Garth
And then
Brooks.
someone had to fill me in, like, oh no, that is him. I'm like, no, it says Chris something.
Totally different.
So sorry, I derailed you, but I just didn't know if the alter ego had his own class ring.
When I first came out, though, I mean, I was very straight ahead country. The first 3, 4 singles that I released were very straight ahead country, and they all did extremely well. And I released a song that I had written at the gravesite of Dwayne Allman in Macon, Georgia, called Put Some Drive in Your Country, because I was just as much influenced by Southern rock. Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers, the Marshall Tucker Band, Charlie Daniels. Those were just as much of an influence as anybody else. So I had written this one song that was really had that Southern rock influence and had all these rock sounding guitars. And as strange as it sounds to say it now, in those days, back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, that was just not allowed.
No.
And so I came out with this, and man, all of these people that previously had loved me just a few months before that hated me now.
Ugh.
I had people in all the record label people at country radio, people that wrote for all these country music magazines. They came out and they said, "Well, this guy, we don't know what to make of this. He's a rebel. He's a maverick. He's obviously he's difficult. He's all of these different things." And then they hit me with the one that really had the biggest impact. They said, "Well, here's what he is. He's just an outlaw. He's an outlaw." And they didn't mean it in a good way.
But it helped.
Yeah.
Well, it was starting, to be honest with you, Stephen, it was starting to get to me a little bit. I was starting to get a little bit depressed about all
Really? Being called an outlaw? And that's
well,
about as good.
because of the negative connotation of it, and the fact that they were trying to tear down everything that I had built up to that point. And I was really, I don't know if depressed is the right word, but it was getting under my skin a little bit until I met Waylon Jennings. And I met Waylon Jennings, and he said, "Sit down a minute, I want to talk to you." He said, "I've been seeing all these things and hearing all these things that they've been saying about you in Nashville and in these country music magazines and at these country music radio stations." He said, "Everything that they're saying about you is exactly the same things that they said about me and about Willie Nelson and about Johnny Cash and all these other people." And he said, "Let me ask you this." He said, "You still selling records?" I said, "Yeah." Every album at that point had gone platinum or better. He said, "You still selling tickets to shows?" I said, "They're all sold out, every one of them." He said, "Well, there's your answer." He said, "That's all that matters." He said, "Those people that work hard, that are willing to spend some of that hard-earned money to go out and purchase an album every time you release one, or go out and buy a ticket for a concert to come see you play anytime you're close to them." He said, "All those people, those are the ones that matter. And the rest of these people, the people at these radio stations and the people at these country music magazines that write all this nasty stuff about you, and the people that even at the record labels," he said, "they get their music for free. They don't pay a dime for music."
Yeah.
He said, "So they don't count. And as long as you're appealing to those people that spend their hard-earned money," he said,
And that's when you leaned into it, and it's the Travis Tritt, Alice Cooper era. You had the eye mega. Feeding my Frankenstein.
No, I think I think you're going back to the Chris Gaines thing now.
Yeah. So yeah, he's got this. What is a single beautiful people? And he's dressed like a chick.
Yeah.
No, no. You know what? That's exactly what happened. You know, as the easiest attack we've always said with and you see this both from the left and the right. So I've always tried to avoid doing it. I've always tried to recognize people on the left who I think are funny. Jon Stewart is funny.
Yes.
My favorite female comedian ever is Kathleen Madigan, who I think campaigned for Hillary. I just find her hysterical.
Yes.
Regardless of politics. But everyone on the left would say, "Oh, that would be the attack."
Yeah.
And sometimes you can start to get down or not believe it, but entertain the idea. And for me, it was making. Not so much the positive feedback because comedians bust balls, but making Dennis Miller, bust a gut laughing.
Yes.
And Nick DiPaolo. And for me, I thought, I know Nick DiPaolo, I know Dennis Miller know funny.
Yes.
And laughter is involuntary.
Sure.
So if they think it's funny, it doesn't matter what Samantha Bee says.
Exactly.
And you can pass that along. Now you're in that position where, if you say that to somebody, that'll change their entire outlook. It just takes one person to do that.
You should be able to think on your own. You should be able to say what you have to say on your own. And here's the thing I've never understood. I have heard people say.
I thought you were going to say how to make rice in a microwave. That one's still.
I've heard people say, well, I found out that this person supports Trump, or this person supports Obama, or this person supports Biden, or whoever, and therefore I used to like their music, or I used to like their comedy, or I used to love their movies.
Yeah.
But now I won't watch them anymore because I can't stand with it. And I personally, now maybe I'm alone in this, but I just don't understand that.
No, I remember the same thing. Like I thought what Natalie from the Dixie Chicks said was asinine to do it on foreign soil, but I still think, they're one of my favorite country bands. They're unbelievable
without a doubt.
composition. Yeah, you can't take away from the artist just because you don't like what they have to
It doesn't make the art any less good.
No. I mean, for crying out loud, I think, was it Mozart or Bach who banged so many prostitutes, he had syphilis, and that's how he lost his hearing. I don't know. I could be getting that wrong. But the point is, if people met their heroes from back in they'd probably be surprised.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to go here to the Mug Club exclusive for people who are members to talk more about music and talk about performing in the era of COVID. The album is set in stone. You can get anywhere, and at Walmart probably sounds like it's the best deal if they can go and do that and get both versions.
Yeah.
At Walmart, don't need to give Bezos any more of your money. No. Billionaire who wants to live forever makes me uneasy. YouTube, thank you. Piss off.